Hello, everyone. We're back finishing off our Strange New World Season 2 comment and response. Mary Keed Croof or Cruff 2884. You were great fun, and I don't understand why you don't have more views or likes. You are both knowledgeable and witty. Subscribed ever since you were reviewing Picard Season 3. Greetings from the Netherlands. And then I said thanks. There's a myriad of reasons why I may not have the level of views or likes that you think that I should have. I'm flattered, but there's tricks to the trade, and there's a lot of tricks that I'm just not willing to do. I'm willing to have fun. I'm willing to do what I want to do. But thanks a lot to Mary Keed Croof. How do I pronounce? How are you supposed to know how to pronounce this right off the bat? MarieKedeKruiff and then numbers. I don't know. Maybe it's like Mary K. Edecruff or something, or Marique Edecruff. I don't know, but thanks a lot from the nice comment. Guess who's back? It's Papp Attack. MichaelPapp. That's a good question. I've watched a few reactions. Most have seen Lower Decks. One or two has not. They enjoy themselves in the perspective of the Enterprise crew. This is for Strange New World Season 2, Episode 7. Those Old Scientists. I believe I'm just going to go ahead on a limb here and guess that I was wondering how people interpret this episode from the point of view of someone who has not seen Lower Decks. Or for that matter, you could take it the opposite. How do people interpret this who've only seen Lower Decks and not Strange New Worlds? But I've watched a few reactions. Most have seen Lower Decks. One or two has not. They enjoy themselves in the perspective of the Enterprise crew. When I watched this episode, I like Lower Decks, and I thought this was they were laying it on a little thick. I don't know. For those old scientists, when they showed up, especially at the beginning before we got to the live action section, I thought they just took Lower Decks and they really amped it up a little bit too much. Like they were trying to sell it, but I thought it was too much. I thought they were just yelling and there was just too much talking, a mile a minute, like they're getting paid by the word. I don't know. That's just how I felt about it. And don't hate me for it, because I watch Lower Decks. Like, I don't hate it. It just seemed like it was too much. Like, it should have... I don't know, it's just a personal hang-up I have, but I do wonder how confused people would be if they'd never seen Lower Decks. Like, maybe this is kind of like a backdoor kind of advertisement for Lower Decks. Like, hey, maybe you want to watch this thing, you know? Here's this showing up. Kind of like we had Gary 7 and TOS. Hey, why don't you watch this other show? I don't know. And MichaelPapp reminds me of a Mobius strip. Yeah, you're talking about the that cool gate that they use to go back in time in this. It's kind of like uniform on one end, and then it kind of twists like a Mobius strip. If you don't know what that is, guess what? You're probably on YouTube right now. You can just type that in. I don't have to describe it. That's amazing, isn't it? We're on YouTube. That's the whole point of Lower Decks. The characters are fans of the universe they live in. These people are just really excitable history nerds. To us, they are Star Trek fans. To them, they love history and science. Yeah, that's what I was kind of saying. I kind of pointed out this thought that the characters of this episode are the fans. It's a little bit like Prodigy. What is it? All the World's a Stage. With the Enterprisians. I think that's what they were called. The characters are the fans of the universe they live in. These people are really just excitable history nerds. To us, they are Star Trek fans. To them, they love history and science. Yes, that's true. Imagine being a fan of the universe you live in. A foreign concept. To you, maybe, not to me. Come on, you're telling me... I didn't know what this meant at first. I had to look this up. Yeah, come on, you're telling me you wouldn't PLOTZ if you got to go on to the bridge of the Enterprise? Is it really the Enterprise, though, MichaelPapp? Be honest. It looks a little bit different to me. If I ended up on that Enterprise, I'd be like, this isn't the Constitution class. Where the hell am I? Well, maybe not really. Maybe I'd be pretty impressed. Let's be honest. Yeah, plots, I guess it means to, like, explode or, like, faint or fall or something. So, I probably would faint, but frankly, my ship is better. So, and I'm not fainting every day on this ship, so I don't know what you're talking about. Well, being a history buff, he'd know if Pike was captaining. Captain crew members, certain crew members must not be on board yet. 11:45. Yeah, this is kind of when I was pointing out that I wish maybe there was a little bit more confusion. I think I said it would be funnier if Boimler was a little bit more kerfuffled over things, like, and accidentally, like, thinking, oh, and you make a mistake, where's McCoy, right? A mistake, right? But okay, if he's a history buff, maybe he would know all the ins and outs. But at the same time, I think that would have been funny, right? And is the point of Lower Decks not to be funny? I don't know. I just kind of was thinking that as I was watching it, like maybe he's a little bit too savvy about things, just a little. Hey, I mean, maybe he did get a visit from a temporal agent that said, if you tell him anything, you're dead. Okay, lips sealed. I said that as I was talking. That makes sense. Boimler trusts Tendi. If she said it was a peaceful science vessel, it probably is. Yeah, trust is one thing. But trust but verify. Okay. Then there's also a visible. This is Mooch. Moosh. 6321. Then there is also a visible Boimler's reaction to hearing the vessel's name, confirming it is indeed the vessel Tendi's great grandmother was on. Yes, that's all well and good, but maybe I'm just not a confident person. I'm not confident in myself. I would be so scared if maybe Tendi was wrong. Maybe memory is not infallible. And it turned out that, it was just one letter different and we're dead. Whoops. You can say that I tend not to like plots that much that rely on just faith, trust, luck, those things, or hope. Like, I don't like those concepts very much. As I'm saying that, you can probably just point out like 10 different amazing episodes that rely on those things. There's so much Star Trek now that you can basically find anything to debunk anyone else's point. We're just at that point now. So be nice to me. Good question. I'm guessing the portal acts as an attractor to latch one entrance to that point in time. Placement might not matter too much. Could be relative proximity improves the connection. I doubt exact positioning is needed, especially since planets orbit and rotate around a star that is self-orbiting a black hole. True. Which in turn orbits a supercluster of black holes. I think, well, your think is as good as my think on that one. It's a little bit nebulous, pun intended. My point is the portal isn't stationary. Yeah, true. Nothing is stationary. Remember that. Nothing is stationary. Galactically speaking, yes. I was bringing up the idea that if you take the one end of the portal, are you just kind of creating a portal to the old past and onto the Orion ship? Like you're stealing it's like stealing one end of a wormhole, essentially, except you're traversing time as well as space. Unless they're the same thing. So it's kind of, it's such an extremely dangerous thing, right? Like, and then I was also asking, like, does Starfleet just see these things and have standing orders just to destroy them or hide them? Because the Orions are, what they're doing is they're stealing a portal to the future, right? That they have access to, and then it makes one wonder to what degree are we as our timeline, the plaything of a super advanced civilization or other civilization that has happened to get access to time travel? You know, like, what is real, what is not, what is canon? As soon as you involve time travel, I keep saying it, I'm a broken record. It involves lots of strange questions come up because you're breaking time's arrow, which was an episode of TNG, by the way. But they got that name from something. That time's arrow, that term means something. I'm assuming they turned off the recorder. I thought it would have been funnier to have the crew sitting at their regular positions pretending Boimler isn't there doing stuff for whatever reason. The crew not being at their post bothered me. I wanted to see them willfully not turning to look at him when a sudden mechanical sound and a Boimler screech is uttered. A Boimler screech. This is when they allowed Boimler to modify something on the bridge with future knowledge, and they just didn't look, and that makes it okay. And I kind of pointed out that the ships have recorders. You can't have a gap in time on a starship like that. And if you had a gap, they'd be asking what was happening, and then you're already busted. Like, kind of like we call it a black box in real life, I guess. Well, your real life, in my life, it's a ship's recorder. But actually, in Discovery, I think they call it a black box. I think the term black box snuck into Discovery somehow. And I'm assuming they turned it off. I'm curious about this. Is there any evidence in Star Trek of how it is that the commanding officer can turn off the recorder? Has that happened? I can't recall it just off the top of my head. Maybe it did. I thought it would have been funnier to have the crew sitting at their regular positions pretending Boimler isn't there doing stuff. Yeah, maybe. They just kind of look away. They stand there awkwardly and look away. And it's just, I don't know. It's just, try to use too much logic and you get scared about stuff, you know. Somebody's going to be asking, maybe Robert April's going to be like, how did you do that? We don't have the technology to do that. So, when you turn the recorder off, what happened in that period of time? And then when it came back on, you were able to find the Orions? And then Pike has to be like, I don't know. Luck of the draw? Yeah, I felt the same. I was so mad we got denied again. Trailers for season 4 of Lower Deck showed them what looks like the Voyager, so I'm hoping they take a trip to the Fleet Museum. There we finally see our beautiful NX-01 refit in all her glory. Yes, zoomed in. In Those Old Scientists, this episode of Lower Decks, there's kind of like a moment where we're talking about the NX class and stuff and how they used, what was it, Horonium, just off the top of my head, in their hulls. And, we always take a piece of the hull with us when we build the ship forward, so it's always the same ship. And they find the panel in engineering or somewhere that has Horonium that they can replicate based off that structure. And I was saying, as soon as they talked about the NX-01, please show it. It drives me crazy when we're watching Star Trek and they're talking about some other ship and they don't show it. How many times did they just not have the money or time to show it? And it's like, oh, the alien ship, it's just out there somewhere. They're transporting on now. We'll be able to talk to them, but trust me, their ship is just out there somewhere. I'm so tired of that. I just hated it. God, I hate it. So don't bring up the NX-01 unless you're gonna show it. I was like, NX-01? What? We're going to the Fleet Museum or something. We're going to the Mothball Fleet. And they find the NX-01 and they get it off. Oh, no, of course that didn't happen. Maybe in Lower Deck Season 4. I like you. You're a good bad influence. That's a great line. Can be said of many people. I did not feel like they were trying to steal the shuttle. I feel like they were trying to use the shuttle's communicator to ask the Orions. It's really hard for me not to accidentally read Onions to meet up with the Enterprise again so they could give back the portal to get the grain. I interpret sneaking onto a shuttle as kind of like stealing, but on closer inspection, they were talking about using the communicator of the shuttle, and it could have easily been what you're saying. They weren't stealing the shuttle, they were just kind of trying to steal its communication system. It sounds right. their heart was in the right place. And in Star Trek, that's all that matters, right? If you save the day, it doesn't matter what you do, right? And Cool Hand 889 in the Toronto timeline, Canada no longer rounds, so the name of the grain will change in TOS. It was a hybrid of Canadian canola seed, and Boimler and Mariner like to break the temporal prime directive and never had temporal investigation on this, like on every time someone tried to change it. Why? Unless it is a predestination paradox, yep, a time travel portal that left by itself with no one watching it, or make sure no one used it for their own purposes. Smiling Spock, I would keep a phaser on hand if Spock snaps into a homicidal rage like the Vulcans on Enterprise, who were exposed to the stuff that they had to coat the Enterprise in to go into the Expanse, where their emotional suppression was destroyed, and they were trying to murder the Enterprise rescue team. Most of the episode was a Betty of an episode, which I like. Fun, lighthearted episode for the series tone. It being taking good review. Thank you, good review. Keep it up. Thanks a lot. Toronto timeline. This must be referring to the episode Tomorrow. Something to do with them going back in time. Change the name of the grain. I think the grain had a slightly different name in spoilers for TOS, Trouble with the Tribbles. That also involved grain. It reminded me of that plot. Breaking the temporal prime directive, not getting visited by temporal agents like they did in Tomorrow, when that person showed up with the device that looked like it came from the U.S.S. relativity. Predestination paradox, yep, time travel portal that left by itself. Okay. Keep a phaser on hand if Spock snaps, because this is different Spock, I guess. And the Spock in this is like kind of like the Vulcans on Enterprise. Maybe Enterprise was also in the Toronto timeline. Who knows? Okay, I like that this is a Betty of an episode. I don't know what that means. It sounds like a compliment. But I certainly appreciate the compliment you gave me at the end. So thanks a lot, Cool Hand. Again, like this is for Strange New World Season 2, Episode 8, Under the Cloak of War. Liked and commented for the algorithm. Thanks a lot. Does that work? Does commenting help? Cool Hand for Season 2, Episode 8. I feel like they took elements of Nor the Battle to the Strong and Duet. Yes, Duet. I think I mentioned Deep Space Nine Duet when I reviewed this episode of Deep Space Nine, where Jake and Cisco end up in a Fed field hospital, see the horrors of war, yes. And Duet, where the Cardassian wanted to take responsibility for the actions the Cardassians did in the occupation. True. Why is New Trek making doctors cold-blooded killers like Girardi, Crusher, and Benga? Dr. Mbenga will kill his patient to save other patients. Say all on what kind of doctor he is, cold-hearted one, but that I think good review, good points on the episode that I missed. Thanks a lot for the compliment as well. Doctors, there's a fine line between saving somebody and killing somebody. Right? So doctors in their line of work are closer to death than the average person would be. So thematically, it kind of lends itself to having doctors being surrounded by death, being involved in death, and in protecting themselves from death, end up causing death. It's kind of a weird thing. Like, you'll find in reality that often when you try to do one thing, you'll end up doing the opposite, because it turns out the opposite is actually the same thing, but just in a different direction. Like hate and love are just the same thing, but just in a different direction. Right? So is that the opposite? Is death the opposite of saving people? Maybe the opposite of being a doctor is just doing nothing. Right? But I see this type of thing in reality, and I don't really know what it's called, but I keep seeing wow, I wanted to do this, but I ended up doing the opposite. And why does that keep happening? I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just a universal constant that doctors are so close to death all the time. Mbenga, especially so far. I still love Mbenga, but I see what you mean. Like, Picard season 1 Girardi was kind of spooky. Yeah, so I mean, you're making a point, and I see what you're saying. And thanks a lot for the little compliment you like to put at the end. Clint Howard, again, cool hand. Clint Howard and Jeffrey Combs in an episode together. Those two have played more Star Trek roles than anyone else. Speaking of that, is anyone else a little bit disappointed that we didn't get to see O'Brien in Picard Season 3? Come on. Imagine if we had Clint Howard, Jeffrey Combs, Colm Meaney, and Michael Dorn on the bridge at the same time in a new Star Trek show. Come on, let's do it. Let's get it going. Looks good, but it didn't really seem like a Klingon. From JoeCroninSHOW for Star Trek Strange New World Season 2 Episode 8. Yeah, I can see what you mean, but we're also in that hairy time where, I mean, what is a Klingon? Like, we're between Enterprise and TOS, and it's like, man, and then we also had to make a stopover at Discovery, so it's like, are they gonna be a TOS Klingon? Are they gonna be like a TMP kind of forehead Klingon, or are they going to be like a strange monster Discovery Klingon? And then he gets on the ship and he acts just like, he doesn't act like a Klingon at all. It was you know what? I liked it though. It was different. I couldn't really expect what Dakra was going to do. I couldn't get a hold of him. I couldn't really get his number, right? And I think that worked in the episode's favor. It's a good episode. So thank you, JoeCroninSHOW. I kind of agree. JoeCroninSHOW, unreal good breakdown, my friend. Thank you. I really don't like this show anymore. It's got so bad to me, but I watched this episode, and it's probably the best one of the season, but still hard to give it much more than a 6 out of 10, with everyone always angry and emotional and acting like teens. What's that mean? I don't understand this part. What's that? What's that place? Never heard of that. I'm from space. That accent seems close being from Boston. I don't know. I'm from space. Good ear, though. Thanks a lot for all the compliments here, JoeCroninSHOW. Unreal, good breakdown. You really don't like this show anymore. That's fine. Episode's probably... I would say this might be my favorite episode of the season, but still hard to give it much more than a 6. I know the whole emotional and angry thing, and like the kind of, you know, the feeling that characters are maybe less emotionally developed than you would expect from Star Trek, and a lot of people, they interpret that as people acting like teens. So thanks a lot, JoeCroninSHOW. Mooch is back. I saw it more like a question of urgency, and we're back to those old scientists. Look at this. We're going backwards in time. Look, we're time traveling. I saw it more like a question of urgency. Solving the time traveler issue requires a specific immediate action of trading the grain away. The settler's issue can be solved later and has more options known at the time of the decision. Declining the trade solves the settles issue or settler's issue, but leaves the time travel issue unsolved. True. The problems are not equal. It's like, it's not a binary thing. It's not like, okay, this excludes the other one, and what if we do this, it excludes the other one. They're not exclusive to each other. One of these is time sensitive, one of them is not. This is true. We need immediate action to trade the grain away. The settlers, we can fix that later. Space is big. I'm sure we can settle the settlers' problem. But getting back that time machine, essentially, that's pretty serious. Declining the trade solves the settler's issue, but leaves the time travel issue unsolved. It's a very serious thing when you let somebody get away with unknown intentions with a time travel machine. I'm just going to put it that way. So thanks a lot, Mooch6321. And Mooch is back for the same episode. I would compare Pike's birthday holiday to Washington's birthday holiday. Yeah, maybe. But how many other Enterprise captains have birthdays, I wonder, that are like a national thing or a holiday of some sort? All of them? I know it's your job, therapy, but I wouldn't give this show one more ounce of oxygen. This is Undertaker for Star Trek Strange New World, Season 2, Episode 9, Subspace Rhapsody. I wouldn't give this show one more ounce of oxygen. I know it's your job. I wish this was my job. I wish I could make 1 penny doing this. But you can't necessarily leave one episode out just because you hate it. I wouldn't give this show one more ounce of oxygen. I understand what you're saying, Undertaker, if you feel that way. Many of these episodes, I would honestly just rather not review it. Not because I hate it, but because sometimes I just don't really care that much. But I try to care. I try to give a crap. You know, Joe Cronin. This is what I hate to hear. Joe Cronin Show for Season 2, Episode 9, Subspace Rhapsody. This is what bothers me the most. He says, this was my last Star Trek watch. Love your reviews. Good job. Rest in peace, Star Trek. This bothers me because there's so much more behind us to watch than there is to watch ahead of us. Right now, the only episode for sure I know is coming, technically, is the new Lower Decks episode. There's zillions of episodes behind me, but there's only one ahead of me. Right? In a manner of speaking. So, you call it your last Star Trek watch. I don't see things as linearly going into the future that much. Because I know people that started with those Kelvin timeline movies. And they said, wow, that was great. Their opinion. And then they just went back and watched the old stuff backwards. Right? So your last one, hopefully we're going backwards from now on. Maybe. Hopefully we're finishing everything. But the good times can come back again. They can come back. So hopefully you show up again at some point, because I'm going to miss you, Joe Cronin Show. Thanks for the comment. Trencher1375, total disengagement comes after the annoyance, when you realize it's not Star Trek, but just some jokesters having shallow fun with whatever. Then apathy will set in. This is why making fun of your franchise never works in the long run. Like the scene with the Scout Troopers and Grogu in the Mandalorian show. I don't know what that is. Everybody loved it when it was on, but where can you go from there? It's just a joke now. Now this Star Trek episode is the same, except the disdain from the writers are a little more upfront, and the annoyance from the audience is more immediate. Because singing is not funny, so the fans understood it right away. I don't like musical stuff, really. I'm not really into that whole kind of thing. I did say when I watched this, I thought it would have been a lot better if a lot of the lyrics involved the technobabble, and they found a cool way to rhyme with the technobabble. I thought that would have been pretty cool. But the songs just kind of turn into like general purpose songs that could have been in kind of like any setting. That's one complaint I had. At the very beginning, they did try to rhyme some Star Trek things into it that I thought was pretty cool, but I was pretty much checked out after a while. Speaking of checking out, total disengagement, annoyance, apathy. This is what I was pointing out in this review, I believe. I said there's nothing quite as bad as pure apathy, just not caring. And unfortunately I saw that happen just in my own channel. Like Picard shows up, and I see people just stop commenting, stop watching. They just don't care. They just can't. They can't handle it. Like you're saying annoyance, and then apathy, and then total disengagement. Maybe there's an order of operations here. And now this Star Trek is the same, except the disdain from the writers are a little more upfront, and the annoyance from the audience is more immediate. This is one of those episodes I watched where I was like, oh my god. People are going to hate this, or they're going to think it's okay, and a tiny fraction might love it. I was definitely feeling that palpably in my head when I was just like watching this, and I just kind of came out with it thinking, well, it's not for me really. It's just kind of middle of the road. I don't know how to review it. I don't understand what to say about it, and I just kind of delivered a very bland review, I thought. I'm not a Nugget Blackheart. I'm surprised as to how much I didn't cringe in this episode. This is also for Subspace Rhapsody. I still don't like musicals, and honestly, I don't like a lot of the music I heard here, but as a musician myself, a different point of view here. Myself, there was some banger beats and backtracks, and to be fair, Christina Chong could really sing. Besides that, I just couldn't really handle it without having something to drink or smoke that makes my mind altered in a way that I could enjoy it, or at least bear it. I had to watch this thing totally sober, as I am always sober. I don't know what it means to be in a mind-altered state. But I'm glad you were able to handle it with a mindset, we'll say that much, and you didn't cringe. I didn't really cringe either. I just kind of watched it, and I kind of had a sidelong stare. Maybe I did one of these. Maybe I kind of rubbed my chin a little bit, and then I just kind of watched it. This is a chin rubber, if I've ever seen it. So thanks a lot. I'm not a Nugget Blackheart. Interesting to see a point of view from somebody who is a musician of sorts. I don't know to what degree, but thanks a lot for giving us your insights. Oh, what's this here? What's this here? We don't usually get a reply string like this. Subspace Rhapsody. Mary K. E.D. Cruff. They're back. Who, I don't know how you pronounce this. This episode was vulgar and uncultured. Well, hopefully it wasn't cultured like a petri dish, which is something that Star Trek is not supposed to be. Remember when Data was having trouble playing the violin, right, or the crew of the Enterprise enjoying a well-rehearsed concert? Back then, the creators of the show had just as much respect for the art and skill of a musician as they had for that of an actor. Now they are making fun, and this angers me greatly. I hate musicals in general, especially those done by people who aren't trained professionals. So that doesn't help either. MichaelPapp replying, I'm not sure how you've come to your conclusion. The episode was written by songwriters and musicians that presumably played the instruments. How was anything vulgar? I was mainly talking about the vocals being heavily auto-tuned, because most of the actors can't sing. The composition is too Hollywood plastic fantastic, yeah, for me as well, but taste is subjective things, so to each their own. Well, you didn't specify that. You just called the whole thing vulgar and uncultured. If you meant only the auto-tune, okay, whoopsie. The auto-tune was probably because only 2 cast members can sing professionally. The rest range from little singing ability to musical. Would it have been more fun if they just tried to sing anyway, even if they couldn't? Would that come off as like cute? I don't know. Maybe I'm totally off base here. I can forgive the auto-tune in my Star Trek musical. Don't expect them to all be dope singers. Vocalists are musicians too, so that's why I didn't really specify. Perhaps I should have, because some of the people don't think / know they are, but that's a whole other discussion. I take this auto-tune to back with a heart, because singing is an art form just as much as act. I know there's some people who really hate auto-tune. It requires talent, hours of practice, and sacrifice. All that glisters is not gold. I don't know what that... I thought it was glitters, or all that glistens. We get glitter and glisten together to be glisters. Huh. It is not gold, but don't mind me. I'm just a snob with a temper. We all have our flaws. I get being proud of being musical. I don't have personal experience. I sing like a cat having sex, so it's not a positive experience for anyone else. Haha, still being a snob. That's quick to judge. It's quick to judge. It's a pretty big personal issue. I work on my singing, and nobody deserves that. I'm certain you have other talents you take pride in. Thank you for being such a civilized debater. Very refreshing. I'm, of course, be proud of your voice. I'm sure you've earned it through practice. If the series were, say, Glee or High School Musical, the movie, the series, something meant to have singers, auto-tune's so cheating. Hire good singing performers for your musical production. Yeah, why didn't they just... Imagine if they recast people in this episode. Dude, Pike can't sing. Well, just recast him as somebody who looks like Pike, who looks like Anson Mount, who can sing. If all these jokes I'm coming up with, I think would make the episode more funny. If a show hired people based on only acting ability, but then asked them to sing later on down the line, I could forgive using autotune for some, or even bad performance from others. Wow, look at this wonderful conversation here, that where nobody was really getting into a fist fight. Wow, how did this happen on the internet? Thanks everybody involved in this for not going crazy. And then I this is from the Prodigy Season 2 reveal. I don't like the Pro or Prodigy uniforms personally. They're not bad, not great in my opinion, just as ambivalent towards these new ones. Can't comment on the VA, Voyager A myself, with only one still frame behind. Hopefully it's because it's picked. There's a few more shots of their ship in the clip they released. Yeah, my thoughts are my thoughts on what was shown so far from the Voyager A and Prodigy Season 2. Don't like the new uniforms. I was a big fan of the original Prodigy uniforms. Sad they changed it. Unboxing Eagle Moss NX-01 Akira prize. I love the Final Unity soundtrack being used here. Go listen to the soundtrack for that game, Star Trek Final Unity, TNG Final Unity maybe. I like the music that plays when you're looking at the computer. Thanks a lot. I'm not a Nugget Blackheart. Thanks a lot, MichaelPapp. You're kind of like Data's first emotional beverage about the Kelsey May. Thanks. I hate it. More, please. This is when the Kelsey May first shows up in this episode. The Kelsey May is revolting. Ah, it's revolting. From Star Trek Generations, I think. He gets a little emotion chip and he gets that alcoholic drink, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was, I forget what it was. And he says it's gross and he hates it and he wants more, and it's just like never having a moment where you could truly experience the taste of something. You get the taste, it's horrible, but it doesn't matter. It's some kind of emotion. I want more disgusting. And I said basically about the Kelsey May. I hate this thing. I need more. The U.S.S. Kelsey May. So ugly. Show me more. It seems like Ra had a, quote, come to Jesus moment over the Federation, meaning when he was at his lowest, he found purpose in the supposed salvation serving the Federation would bring. Ra was sincere. However, he took his Klingon passion for peace too far with Mbenga when the doctor begged him to go. I would have thanked him, said please consider it, walked out and continued on. Instead, Ra saw in Mbenga the physical embodiment of his salvation. If someone from his greatest disgrace could stand by his side, insert Antonio Banderas satisfaction gif. Yeah, there's so many different ways to read this episode. In my review, I just basically said you could take the completely opposite view and be correct. It's a complicated episode that I think people are going to come to like more as time goes on. You're going with the kind of interpretation that Doc Ra, or just Ra, is completely sincere. I think I kind of went with that too. But he wouldn't leave Mbenga alone. But then again, in my review, I said that like it's an intervention. You can't just let them go. Maybe you would do something different. I mean, he died. Ra died. So, I mean, in that way, he was wrong. But I interpret this like maybe Mbenga isn't going to get better on his own anymore. Maybe he's at that point where he cannot get any better without someone forcing him. That's just kind of like how I was reading it. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but interesting episode. And again, for the same episode from MichaelPapp, absolutely, especially if it hinders on the word or hinges of a couple of people. I'd rather lie about who killed whom if it brought an era of peace. Hopefully, by the time history uncovers the lie, they'll be so used to peace that it wouldn't matter. What a wonderful thought. We'll be so used to peace that a lie from the past wouldn't matter anymore. If only. If only. If Star Trek now is reminding you of how it used to be, doesn't that mean Star Trek is back in the way it had been? Not exactly. Reminding you of something in one aspect does not really necessarily indicate that the whole is returned, right? Like apple pie reminds me of apples, but that doesn't mean I got an apple in front of me, right? Exactly. Strange way of saying it, but I wouldn't complain. I'm not complaining. It does remind me of how it used to be. It just doesn't mean, as a whole, that Star Trek is back in the way it had been, if that's even possible. But I mean, I believe the sentiment, but for Star Trek to be flat out back in the way it had been, that would be practically impossible, right? Mainly because I want something new. The biobed flashing at the end was to signify Mbenga's emotional journey isn't over. This is one thing I was confused by at the end. Like, the biobed was broken and then it was flashing at the end. It was like it was going to break again. I kind of, I looked at that and I was thinking, well, hold on. Like, what is making it do that? I was thinking more along the lines of there's something wrong with the ship. But thematically, it's also saying that Mbenga's journey in fixing things in his life, as in this biobed, is not over. My inference was Ra read the room, went along with the change of topic diplomatically. What a great diplomat. He can read the room. We owe nothing to the dead, at least not in regards to how they feel. We need to consider how the families feel, but we should not consider what the dead deserve or not. They're dead. If having a bad person redeem himself through good works is predicated on a lie, I'm not sure I'm too upset with the results. I'm firmly in the Pike category of war, however. I have the luxury of not seeing any battle. Yes. I mean, I'm sure Mbenga thinks the same, but he also thinks that he cannot think the same. Right? It's like I know that you know that I know that you know type thing. I think Mbenga would understand this, but he's also mentally damaged from war. Right? Put on the Starfleet face. It's a good face. Even if it's a lie. Great line from that episode. Yeah, I believe in my review, I said something like, the dead cannot die again, but people now can die. I think I said something like that, echoing what you're saying here. Thanks a lot, MichaelPapp. Okay, I got a reply chain here. This one's for Subspace Rhapsody. I had a lot of fun. My serotonins were flowing the entire episode. I wish there had been more variety than musical stylings. It all felt sort of the same. That's what I thought. As for whether or not the episode should have just played it straight, no, absolutely not. No way. Nuh-uh, not a chance. Did you see Pike's reactions? I was rolling with laughter. Yeah, Pike, he can make a funny face now and then, eh? He was so horrified. The stunned looks of Pelia and her are priceless as well. Anyone full-on hating this show forgot TNG recreated a Robin Hood movie. True. TOS went to a Western, more or less. Multiple episodes went to a Western. Not multiple episodes. Multiple series of Star Trek went to Westerns. Did up literal space Nazis, true, multiple times. DS9 put its command crew into a game. They were forced to play hopscotch. And move along home. Not to mention a good old-fashioned Bond movie. Voyager had... Oh my god. Oh my goodness. And went full Western. I know, how is Strange New Worlds any more strange than its predecessors? It's not. It doesn't mean you have to like it, but you can't say it's that much more strange unless you interpret it as like going to a Western is like at a sub-level below the sci-fi. But portraying sci-fi as a musical is like a layer of abstraction above it. Like it's kind of weird how it works, but seriously, fans hate on Strange New Worlds when they do familiar Trek tropes, they hate on it when it creates some tropes of its own. Had anyone missed the wholesome Trek messaging of working together and being your best selves? How you get through the adversity. Yeah, at the last scene of this, where everybody is laughing on the bridge, is my favorite scene so far in this season. Just putting that up there. It would have been so awesome if they worked this technobabble into the songs. An entire song dedicated to Treknobabble would have been perfect. This song dedicated to how great the Enterprise herself is a ship, going over her tech specs, and like, if they did that, I'd still be singing it now. But they didn't. Was wishing we could get some of that, like, always going forward because we can't find reverse. That song. Star Trekking Across the Universe. I love that one. Una says some kind of line about it has hampered the inertial dampener or something like that, and I remember like, oh, let's go, here we go. They're starting to work in the technobabble. It was right at the beginning, and then they just kind of stopped. I was so disappointed. Oh yeah, it did. I was talking about, did this use auto-tune? I'm so deaf I can't understand what anyone is, auto-tune or not. I'm so tone deaf. Auto-tune was the episode's friend. Not a crime. Only a couple of main actors are actually performing singers. One or two more had some musical theater training and background. Isn't everything about art and fiction appreciation subjective? How does a show be more or less subjective? That's a big question. Big question here. You're asking like one of these fundamental questions about what it means to be a person, really. How can it be more or less subjective? I don't know. So, like, people often say, like, okay, like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. People will say something like comedy is very subjective. And in my opinion, music is, like, very subjective, too. I don't know why this is. I can't explain it. But it seems like there's more of rules of thumbs, axioms to follow, paint by numbers, when you're creating a regular, like, ABC plot, call to action, rising tension, the bad point, and then redemption. That kind of, like, plot arc. Like, I would say that's, like, the rules surrounding that are not as subjective as the rules would be around writing music. You could say I'm totally wrong, and I'd agree with you, because I don't always know what I'm saying. I'm not perfect. Pretty sure she only applied for this new fellowship because of Boimler's concern for Spock. She's leaving him so he can become the man he's destined to be. Yeah, Boimler was like, hey, listen, Spock has to go away from you right now. You have to go do some other canon stuff, okay? Someone from the Relativity told me not to tell you, but I'm telling you now. You have to go on that fellowship so you can meet that Corby guy, okay? Okay, bud? Alright, bye. Pretty sure she only applied for this new fellowship because of Boimler's concern for Spock. Yep, we gotta leave Spock behind. Chapel has to leave Spock for a while. I'm sorry, it just has to happen. That's how it has to be in this timeline. I would have liked the song, but had the crew loves the Enterprise. Not a complaint, just a wish. Exactly. Treknobabble is the perfect explanation. Bounce the graviton particle beams off the deflector dish to do a thingy. We need a deflector pulse, guys. Yeah, it did kind of feel like this episode was kind of fixing things with Technobabble. Saving the day with Technobabble, it doesn't make your episode terrible, but it's something you should try to avoid, right? You want your explanation for how things are solved to be a thing where the audience goes, oh, I should have thought of that. That's what you want. That's the golden rule of this stuff. The audience should be like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, I should have thought of that. Playing within the rules previously established by Star Trek canon, like the way the technology works. That's how you want to do it. You don't want to invent technobabble at the last second. It always involves a deflector. I don't know why, but you don't want to have invent some kind of new particle. In this episode, they just like beam some stuff into this thing, and it solves the quantum song thing, and blah blah blah. Whatever. Whatever. I'm sure that's what the writers were saying too. Whatever. Just fix it with some kind of technobabble. I loved how tactile and TOS it felt seeing Kirk and the Jeffries tube plugging. Yes, some big old wires in like TNG's tech still feels more advanced. These guys are using clicky-clacky, clunky cables, whereas TNG has isolinear trips, biomimetic, gel. Yeah, like on Voyager, they have those gel packs that are like biological in a way, and the ship can get sick. Very strange stuff. Modular consoles, yes. If Klingons had spontaneously burst into epic opera, I doubt they felt so dishonored, being forced into K-pop. What's that? Klingon pop? Yes, that's not a vibe the proud warriors can futz with. F-U-T-Z. I understand why they're so outraged. I was expecting a dope rap, to be honest. But then, when the beat hit, then the singing started, and I couldn't breathe because I was laughing so hard. Had to rewind the episode and pause for a second. The lyrics are so Klingon. I love it. I want more. Watched Oppa, OPPA Klingon style again. But it's not the same. I believe you on all these points, whatever a lot of this stuff means. They shouldn't have burst into Klingon opera, you're right. They should have burst into Klingon nursery rhymes. I don't know, I'm just making something up. If the TOS theme was a signal to the audience, diegetic music had ceased, dramatic music has resumed, and doesn't it feel good? I also believe the use of the TOS theme in the musical episode was a shadow to the iconic music from the start of it all. It just really worked for me somehow when the TOS theme hit at this previously unforeseen musical climax. Yes, it's just kind of, we're singing, and then the singing ceases, and then we're allowed to enjoy ourselves listening to the TOS theme, and we're all on the bridge together, and we're just thinking, why are we here? Who cares? Let's just all have a good time. They all start laughing and like congratulating each other. I just really like that. I've already gone back to this episode a few times, and just fast forwarded right to the end just to see that a bunch of times. It's so good. The music is playing, and Spock just like grimaces and walks off the bridge, and it's so perfect. I'm not sure how much middle ground there will be. People tend to be pretty polarizing these days. I happen to love the episode. Anyone else besides the LT out there find this episode just okay? LT, that's me. I kind of, I review things like somebody from 20 years ago. That's what I'm trying to... People are like, if I like it, it's a 10. If I didn't like it, it's a 0. There's just like, kind of like, we got these like a review score inflation, where like, good episodes only occur between the 7 and 10 mark. Anything below that might as well be 0. So in my brain, most episodes of Star Trek since the very beginning, since 1966, or earlier if you count the Cage, most of those episodes are a 5. Just because they kind of just get by and they're just kind of okay. Like, that's the average. 5 is an average, right? If you get a 5 out of 10, that means you got half right. People forget that. People think, 5, this episode sucks. Well, no, it means you got half right. If you think about it, right? I don't know where this came from. Maybe it's school, but like, if I give an episode a 7, that means it's amazing. If I give it an 8, that means it's almost life-changing. And then 9s, I don't know if I'm going to ever hand out a 9. Like, 9 is like in the top 5 episodes of Star Trek ever. And I don't think there's a single 10 out there. I don't think a 10 exists. A 10 might just be like Star Trek the Motion Picture, and that's it. Yeah. Polarizing? I would maybe just say that's a different way of saying review score inflation. yes, Ortegas has been done dirty yet again by the season. Maybe the actor didn't want to have a song to themselves for some reason. I'm getting some real Chekhov or Sulu vibes from Ortegas. Or Travis Mayweather. Just kind of fading away into the ether. I want an actual Ortegas episode. I'd hoped Under the Shadow of War was going to be one based on her crazy intense scene with Uhura. Instead, it's Mbenga's primarily. Missed opportunity, in my opinion. Season 3 better give us good Ortega-centric content. If Season 3 goes by without like a really serious Ortegas win and like at least 2 serious Pelia wins, I'm going to be not a happy camper. For Subspace Rhapsody, again, MichaelPapp, when I saw Spock stumble over the... I replayed this. Like, I rewound it. I was like, wait a minute, did I see that? I thought this is the start of Ambassador Spock. It felt almost reverent to me knowing what he'd do under that title. I really thought I was seeing things when I stumbled a bit and had to replay it. What an noble start to the illustrious diplomatic legacy, eh? Actually, this is actually got an error in it. Look at this. You're about to see me edit a comment. Look at this. I think I meant this. I really thought I was seeing things when he stumbled a bit and had to replay it a few times. Yes, that's actually what I meant to say. Sorry about that. Truly the worst of both worlds. This is for the that time where I made Uhura, instead of playing that show tune in Subspace Rhapsody, I made her play Baby Shark. Now here's a comment for unboxing the NX-01. Jeffrey Young, smiley face. And then after I watched Hegemony, I immediately saw this scene where Pike said, "Barbershop now!" I was like, let's go. And I just made a picture of Pike with messed up hair and with that subtitle at the bottom, "Barbershop now." Bring me that nice blue Bolian feller. You know, that Bolians who allegedly don't have hair, even though there was one time we saw them with hair. The barber on the Galaxy class Enterprise D was a Bolian, I believe. And that just leaves the last episode. Look at this. Are we going to continue the last episode? Maybe we will. Cool Hand. Yep, the saucer sec of the Cayuga should have destroyed half. Well, I don't know how big the continent is in this world. Continents are usually pretty big. How big is the Cayuga saucer going to be? The whole thing is we'll say like 450 meters because it's the Strange New Worlds Enterprise Constitution class. Maybe half of that saucer, maybe 200 meters. Falling from low orbit. What would be the exact Newton impact, Newton force impact of that, and radius of the impact zone? I don't know. I'm not like an expert on explosives and stuff like that. Speed inside the object to go through the atmosphere with the same ending of the season 3 of The Mandalorian, with the cruiser hit the planet, which would do it as well. Pike cooks more times in the season than commanding his ship. No wonder he lost his command to Kirk, who maybe the Hesperians might show up and engage the Gorn, since they're not Federation or Earth lined and have their own starships and technology, and introduce the Hesperians in the Star Trek as there are in Lower Decks. And the Gorn, why are the other species not declare war on the Gorn? Well, maybe they did and we don't know. Like Klingons and Romulans, they would never let Gorn get away with this. Is like the Federation, apparently, like Scotty being so young when he served on 11 ships at the time of TOS. I did mention that in my review. Scotty seemed really young. TOS, the second oldest of the cast. Nice review. Good points on something I missed, but that what I think. Thanks, Cool Hand. Always with the nice compliments. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. What would the Cayuga really do to the landmass that it impacted with? I don't know. I would tend to avoid writing these things into an episode if I could. It is spooky that they saw the saucer coming down and still survived. Yeah, lots of good points. Daniel Head for Hegemony, the last episode of Strange New World Season 2. A real Scottish actor for Scotty as well. Martin Quinn is 29, but could be playing older. He just felt a little young. I don't know. Bro, cool, but make it more compact and visual dynamics. More images on our screen. Cool. Pura Vida. I've never heard that before. But thanks, Nathan, JK3. Maybe when we review Lower Decks Season 4, we're going to have some more interesting things on screen. Who knows? Maybe this inspired me. Where's the warning for pornographic content? Rude! Won't somebody please think of the chitlins? I know, right? This episode was full of Gorn. Dang it. Strange New World Season 2 is Gorn, but not forgotten. MichaelPapp. Strange New World Season 3 is greenlit. Would have already been in production were it not for the strikes. Yeah, I was curious if there was going to be a Season 3 on the books. We'll see when it hits. Discovery already got delayed. Methinks we're going to watch Lower Decks and then we might have a lull in content for a little while, which I'm fine with. There has been a lot of Star Trek content in a very fast period of time. I don't mind a little break, to be honest. Maybe thruster bursts and momentum are enough to go where needed. Only minimal life support on. Could be the crew masked their heat signatures somehow, or the hull does it. Energy levels for minimal life support could be low enough to be not much different than background radiation. The scenario didn't need me to suspend it yet. I'm saying this stuff, but oftentimes it's just a nitpick, or it's just something I noticed. I didn't really factor that in hugely into my review. It's not weighted highly. Like, put it this way, we're not losing 2 points for that, for the exact mechanics of astrodynamics, or whatever you want to call it. Heat of the moment passion from Pike. When he's had time to think and calm down, he's able to become the better man again. I would hope so. Because I mentioned in this review, he goes from just outright disregarding the Gorn as a species, and then basically when he's almost he's at his wit's end and it feels like he's about to die and they're cornered in that town, then he starts to really think about it and say, like, maybe we could get along and all that stuff. Yeah, it should be like that all the time, Pike. The mathematics would be impossible for anyone but a Vulcan. That's why he's the only one who could go, placing the reaction control system little thrusters on the saucer in such a way that it lands on the planet. I figured the computer did the math and they just downloaded the information about the rocket placements to a pad or something that Spock took with him. Spock was probably checking the pad off screen or something. Then anyone could have done it. Spock's the only one who could. It has to be for a reason. I like mine best, but since nothing was explicitly said, anything's possible. He lied because he wanted to save Chapel himself, or he needed to be very strong and fast to do it in time. Vulcan. Yeah. I'm calling shenanigans on the whole thing about actually managing to make the saucer look like it naturally decayed and then fell into the planet in that exact spot. Calling shenanery on that one. Shenanigans. I think the idea was to make the wreck look like debris enough to make it too late to stop. It's pretty clear that Gorn knew what the plan was. They were primed and ready to transport all their remaining people. True, we're going to find out something first episode of Season 3. We're going to find out something that's going to recontextualize this. I'm going to say that right now. They're already ready to transport the remaining people. They may even have figured us destroying the tower was a blessing in disguise. It made kidnapping the survivors and crew on their planet much easier. We're going to see something in the first episode of Season 3. Mark my words. It's going to make us reevaluate something about this episode, I got a feeling. You thought she's so gorny. She's so gorny? Use it in a sentence. That Batel, she's so gorny. Hemmer isn't dead. I refuse to accept this. The Gorn eggs died in a sub-zero temperature. Ain't I find comfortable. Hammer landed in a big snow pile and got buried. Woke up when he had to puke them out. Poor guy's been stuck on that planet for ages now, waiting for our rescue. What a hero. Or Hammer managed to command a Gorn ship. Maybe the Gorn tried to find their dead like the Enterprise had. Then he used his relative home field advantage to take out the Jorn and strand them there instead. Hammer. Then Hammer followed the Gorn around because he couldn't see how to navigate a new course or whatever, plot something, and then he found Shaw. He found Shaw from the future, and Shaw and Hammer are coming back. What if Hammer rescued the survivors by teaming up with the Gorn ship he commands? Oh my god! Hammer's okay, and so is Shaw, I know it! Hammer isn't dead. He's not dead. MichaelPapp for hegemony. Vulcans have superior strength. Could be a human or even a Klingon or Gorn might not have been strong enough to burst through that clear matter. A Vulcan might. I never thought of that. I did point that out. He kind of just like stabs through the Gorn's helmet. It was apparently beyond me that Vulcans are just stronger than humans, and they are. I forgot that. Trapo's still going to go off to her fellowship. I think they're merely made up. Maybe ending things on good terms instead of bad ones. Hey, you got to leave on a high note. You could be right, though. The themes work as you've described. Yes, I know. What's the story, Morning Gorny? Oh, that's it for... What's with the comments of hegemony just being comedy? Like, why are we just... This really super serious Gorn episode at the end of Season 2, and we're just like... Just riffing on it, like, what? Why is this? I think we just like the word Gorn. It just evokes feelings. And then this is when I was posted this picture. I don't know where I found this, but I found 2 different diagrams of the Cayuga with different sizes. Kelvin timeline stats versus prime timeline stats. Obviously a quantum slip made by the most recent subspace rupture being sealed, created a minor blip in continuity, and sure, it's fine now. If we just say that fast enough, no one will ask any questions. Does anyone else get secondhand anxiety about that badge falling? Yeah, when I'm wearing my red uniform and I have that badge on, I cannot stop touching it. I'm fiddling with it. I'm messing with it. Are you on? Are you still there? Pike's apron touching that. I cannot even concentrate on the scene when he's wearing that apron. I keep thinking it's going to bump up and knock off the badge because I know the magnetic clasp is like not the strongest thing ever. If QMX does supply the badges for the show, the badges they make to sell to fans such as myself seem pretty real to me. Well, I do now. Enjoy your secondhand anxiety seeing that badge on Pike now when he's got the apron on. He's going to have it on in Season 3, I bet. And this is just a 3D animation I just kind of crapped out one day. It was a few seconds long. Good lighting. Lighting is almost the most important thing. Considering how easy they seem to be able to remove, he should probably move it a bit. Neelix would have some good advice on wearing aprons and comm badges. True. Neelix was a little bit of a chef himself. And we're not going to double dip here and answer comments about the comment response video. That would be weird. Yeah, and Givardiki. I don't know. Maybe angle looking at top of the sorcerer separation, and less glowing window so you get the feel like it's actually hiding in the shadows. I took all these to heart and made a new animation just for this guy, and maybe tone down glare a bit and slower speed would be cooler. I did all those things, and then I said thank you, and I gave him some more things to look at. None of this makes any sense, huh? That doesn't make any sense, MichaelPapp. I think my timeline theory here makes perfect sense. I think it makes perfect sense. I think if you follow that all, it's perfect. Time travel is such a mess. That's probably why it's currently illegal in, in physics. I wish it were illegal in the writer's room, too. From Wilfred Gray. And this is just more stuff about another 3D animation I did. Could you 3D print this? I'm sure it's possible. I've never used a 3D printer. I've never owned one. I've seen one. I've never used it. And I wouldn't really make this model, by the way. But you made this one. Good point, though. I have no idea if 3D printers accept blend files. And then DH2032, no, 3D printers do not accept blend files directly. 3D modeling software that can be used to create models for 3D printing, okay, but the models must be exported in a format that is compatible with 3D printers. I have messed around with exporting 3D files in different formats before. I'm not new to that. 3D printing, STL12, is that right? Blender has an add-on called the 3D Printing Toolbox that can assist with preparing models for 3D printing and exporting them in the appropriate format. Thank you. You can learn more about preparing Blender models for 3D printing here. Must be tutorial, text, video, covering topic somewhere. Yay, Blender. Nice model and video. Thanks a lot, Marks7502. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks a lot, powercage. And then lastly, our last comment for this video. Gonna skip this vid. Want absolutely no impressions before playing. Algorithm comment. If you want the review score, spoilers, 3, 2, 1. I gave this game an 8.5, which is really frighteningly high for me. I love this game. It's chalk it up for another one in the pantheon of actually good Star Trek games. I'm Lieutenant Mark. Remember to play that game. And I'm going to see you really soon when we watch Lower Decks Season 4 premiere episode. I'll see you there.